Great responsibility. Mojo 50.
And crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea.
Americanuck Radio. News, opinion, and a little irreverence from both sides of the 49th parallel. This is Americanuck Radio with Mike Phillip.
Welcome back to Americanuck Radio on Mojo 50, WBM 324, the Stu Peters Network on Rumble, and about 60 different other podcast platforms. You can catch old shows at AmericanuckRadio.com. That is our website, AmericanUCKRadio.com. I've got good news and I've got bad news. Let's start with the bad news. I told Greg that we had something else to do today, but he figured me out, and so I wasn't able to get rid of him. We've got Greg Meakin again. I'm just kidding. But we've got a real special guest joining us today. This man I have a tremendous amount of respect for, although I have not met him. Just looking at his bio and the things that Greg has told me. Captain James McCormick. He is the commander of the Military Order of the Purple Heart. Did I get that title correct, Captain McCormick?
Well, I'm actually classified as the past national commander of the Military Order of the Purple Heart, but yes, I was the national commander and the you would call an ambassador now. So there's only been 89 national commanders in this organization in our 89 year existence, and I am the first one from West Virginia. So it's a tremendous organization that does so much for our combat wounded veterans.
That's fantastic. I'm also affiliated with a group called Jesus is My General that reaches out to veterans, tries to get them born of the water and the spirit so the healing can begin. We have a very similar situation in Canada, Captain McCormick. Our vets are treated horribly. They are screwed over, they are jerked around, they are lied to and thrown away like trash by our federal government. They're underfunded, and if they speak out, they are buried. My brother-in-law, in fact, is a tank commander. He was one of the first NATO soldiers to go over to Germany to study the Leopard 2, the brand new ones, and he led a squad in Afghanistan where he was blown up, shot 6 times, and then came back. They tried to jerk him out of his disability, and now they have sent his tank to Ukraine, where I don't know, but I presume it has or will be destroyed, but they are not happy, James McCormick.
Yeah. And, I knew a lot of Canadians that also served over there. So I was in Iraq. And as a matter of fact, my officer basic course commander was a Canadian captain named Tom Lee, and Tom was just a fantastic guy. I met him at Fort Bliss, Texas, and he was giving me a similar review that you just gave. And the sad thing is that we're always needed and wanted whenever there is a war to fight or the wolf's at the door. But as soon as the wolf is gone, it's like, look, criminals in many cases get treated better than our veterans.
Yep.
And that's a shame. That's a shame in Canada, and that's a shame in the United States as well. And I've made that very clear, and have not been popular making that. But as soon as
Captain McCormick, we have some kind of a feedback loop happening. Hang on, I just fixed it. Sorry, could you please start over from 10 seconds ago? There was a tech glitch on my end. I apologize, sir.
No, that's okay. What I was saying is that our service members are needed and wanted when the wolf's at the door. But whenever we put the wolf to bed, then when it comes time to take care of those service members, those veterans and their families, it doesn't always happen. There is a level of love for criminals in some cases, more so than you have for veterans. And in no greater cases, as you've probably seen, they're memorializing some of the criminals here in the United States, tearing down some statues of former heroes and then replacing them with statues of people that were not so much heroic. So I'm with you on that, 100%. It's a shame.
No, it's not. The other thing I'd like to point out is it's not new. I mean, if you look at the bonus army after World War I, when they wanted the bonus that they were promised for enlisting, and then they all got jerked around, so they camped out around the White House, and the National Guard was called out on them. They had this bonus system, I remember, enlistment bonuses, and I had gotten the brochures because my father completed basic training at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. He now lives in Tennessee. He's actually looking at a lawsuit against the VA right now. But anyhow, that the history of guys being treated badly. I remember getting these pamphlets to join because I was looking at enlisting before 9/11, and they had these big cash bonuses. Well, sure enough, I think about 15 years later, I was reading articles how they were coming after guys and seizing their property, saying that we gave you that enlistment bonus and we told you could have it, but now we want it back. I mean, this goes back quite a long way. Yeah.
Well, there are a lot of promises that are broken, but none more so than I think to those that serve the most. And it's a shame because it doesn't just occur with the veterans; it occurs with their families as well.
Yep.
And the political polarization in America makes it worse, in particular. And I'll tell you what really, really drives it is, the other thing is when you see politicians, when it's a campaign period of time, where they love the veterans and then they totally forget you once they get elected. Not all of them, but some of them. And the ones that don't forget you, notice how they're treated and how they're attacked. So I think, those that serve, those that are actual patriots that love God and country, it's time for us to come together and make a stand on some of these things. I mean, it is really outrageous. I'm glad you brought this up. I really am, because it's something that really bothers me, that I can go into a community and I can almost point out the homes of veterans because they'll be the ones with the poorest looking vehicle or the poorest looking conditions, and most of them have the worst time getting a job. And it's not because of anything done. It's because they put their life on hold so that they could go serve this country, and then they come back and some weasels that didn't serve, you know what I mean, they end up being the bosses at these organizations in these different places, and then, they shut them out of the jobs, and it's terrible what happens. And then the benefits, the politicians that break their oath and their promises to take care of these folks, it's disgraceful. It's an absolute disgrace.
It is. So, you talked about the polarization, and it used to be that polarization was such that everybody backed the military, at certain times, like you said. But now it definitely seems that one side of the aisle, so to speak, is far more openly hostile towards the military, unless they're sending you guys to Ukraine or whatever, if the cause is righteous in their eyes, like you said. But they seem to be more openly hostile.
Yeah. Well, and I can tell you that we've observed that as well.
Yeah.
And we also see a level of victimization. Your heroes nowadays, they are victims. You are a victim, you become the hero. You're not a hero now because you stand up to the bully and punch him in the nose. No, you're a hero now when the bully just walks all over you and you lay down and just let him do that to you.
Yeah.
And then you become this victim. Or you become a criminal that gets caught in the middle of your crime, and because of your inability to control yourself, the police detain you, hurt you, and in some cases have to eliminate your life. Then you become a hero as well. I mean, I think that we've really mischaracterized what the term heroics and heroism really means. And I think we need to get back to a point to where we identify. See, David was a hero for facing down Goliath. You know, in this day and age, they would call David a villain because how dare he take a rock and hit that poor old giant in the middle of the eye like that and then cut his head off with a sword, you know, because that's the way society looks at things now, the victim. So, and I see that they try to play that with some of our veterans as well. Well, we're not victims. We're not victims of anything other than, you know, bad politics in some cases. But for the most part, we're warriors, and that we believe that we've done a job, we've kept our promises, we've maintained our adherence to our oath, and it's time to take care of us. I mean, I see so many that just live in absolute, utter poverty, and it is just outrageous. And you go in there, and what's worse is when these older veterans die, and you go into their home and you clean out those homes and you look and see, here's a guy that had a silver star, 2 or 3 Purple Hearts, and lived like that in his last days. That is criminal. That is criminal.
It is. And it's interesting, too, along with going with the conversation that we're having right now, I'd like to point out that after David did that very heroic thing and saved the nation, his own government chased him around for several years trying to kill him. So it is very apropos.
Yes, absolutely. Yes,
Absolutely. He had to live in caves.
And that's the jealousy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the jealousy of it. Everybody loved David because of that.
Yep.
And there is a level of jealousy out there. You know, we've got some serious problems that we have to deal with, and a lot of it is exactly as you said. There is one side of the aisle that likes to play on that more than anybody else. And you know, obviously, you know, I will tell you, I am a James McCormick. I am a constitutional conservative Christian that believes in our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, and that's what got me through 26 months of combat, being gunshot 3 different times in several battles, and facing down my own Goliaths after I came home. And I'm telling you, you have to turn exactly what you said. We have to turn back to our faith in Jesus Christ and accept him as your personal Savior. And I promise you that you can overcome any obstacle or anything that's in front of you.
You know, we have, like I mentioned, that Jesus is my general organization that we're linked to on our website. I was speaking with Sergeant Rob Coggle, U.S. Army, who is part of this initiative, and he talked about when he came back. He said that when people said to him, just kind of in an obligatory way, "Thank you for your service," he said it made him feel horrible. He said, "You know, I'm a monster. You don't know what I'm capable of and what I've done," and it was destroying his life. It was hurting his marriage. But then he repented and he came to an altar and was baptized in Jesus' name and filled with the Holy Ghost. And so if you're a hurting veteran out there and you are wounded and you've got roots of bitterness in you, God will heal you and take that pain and that depression and that anger and frustration away and fill you with joy unspeakable and peace that passes all understanding. And that is what we preach, not only to veterans, but every man, woman, and child. So you're in good company, Captain McCormick. Are we going to let Greg speak today, or should we just make him sit there?
Yeah.
What can I do? What can I do for an encore? No, Mike, we've had shows like this. You get a guest like this, and it's just the tip of the iceberg. What we're talking about already.
It is, yeah.
But no, I love to sit back. I have so much deep respect for both you guys. I love to sit back and listen to the conversation. I do have one quick question for James on the VA. The VA issue, I hear a lot about that. I talk a lot about this. And my question is there a fix? because I hear good and bad about the VA. They're not the nightmare Carter years. You remember those? We're older guys here. But is there a fix for the VA to streamline it, just make better care service, whatever? And secondly, is there a political tie to it, Captain? Is there do the military guys, honestly, I'll be direct, do they prefer having Trump as a president? Does the administration make a difference, and especially in policy, not just chat, but policy too?
Let me break that down. Number one, there is a fix to that. And one of the first fixes that you have to have is they have to have better employees and staff. And I can tell you, in my workings with the VA as a veterans advocate since, and also as a veteran that went through the system. So I spent 1.5 years in polytrauma, going through all kinds of stuff at the Huntington VA Medical Center in West Virginia, which is now the Herschel Woody Williams Medical Center, the best VA hospital in the country, I believe, hands down. Now, I say that because of the people that they had working there. They were civil, they were decent, they were kind. However, I could go to another VA hospital and I could run into, Attila the Hun. That's the first one that you're meeting when you come in there.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of these veterans, every complaint that I got, Greg, had to do with a bad employee interaction. And the problem with the VA is that they don't just fire these people. They just move them from one place to another. There's been several famous cases. I have one guy that I've had to deal with that worked with the VA that literally, I know has been responsible for veterans losing their mind and either attempting to commit suicide or possibly even committing suicide, because that's the last person that they interacted with. Why is a person like that still working there? And it doesn't matter. I mean, I'm telling you right now, it does make a difference who's in the White. I'm going to get into that. So the fix to that, number one, is they need to vet that entire group that has any interaction with the VA or with veterans. And then they also need to really look at, let's start utilizing better cooperation with local civilian doctors. Now, some veterans don't like that because they like to have the VA medical system available. The problem is we don't have enough of them to cover, but we have doctors in every community, and we need to make that that program that we were supposed to have that allowed us to seek care outside of the VA if it was outside of such a mile, 60-mile radius. Well, that doesn't work. Those doctors don't get paid by the VA in a timely manner. It's getting a little bit better, but it's still very dysfunctional. And so I had a doctor that was taking care of me for over 3 years, my doctor here in West Virginia, for 3 years. And he finally came to me, he says, the VA's never paid me for anything. So I felt so bad about it. I offered to pay, what do I owe you, for these doctor visits or something. And thankfully, he was a veteran himself. And he says, no, I'm just going to go through the process and try to get paid and hope we fix the system. That's the other thing. Now, your talk about administrations being in command. Now, remember this. It's that president that picks your VA director. Right now, we got a VA secretary, that's in there that's never served in the military. So how can he relate to any of us? He can't. He's a political appointee, and he brings on a bunch of political appointees, and we're probably in one of the most corrupt presidential I don't know I'm telling you, this is a bad administration we've got right now. It's really bad. There's a lot of things that are coming out, and then if you say anything against it, you'll be canceled. People will come after you. They'll try to kill you. They'll try to attack you. Believe me, I know. I've been the victim of that too. And so, yes, it does make a difference who's in the White House, because that's the person that's going to select your VA secretary. And right now, just look, what was the standard for selecting the transportation secretary? Was it because of his skills as a transportation professional, or was it because he met a narrative that this president's trying to meet? And I'm telling you, people are getting hired and appointed to positions as political favors, not because they actually meet the standards or they can do the job, but they're being appointed because they're either you check the box. Are you in the LGBTQ community? Are you ultra left? Are you a socialist? And that's exactly what you're getting appointed into these positions. And that's who's leading the charge. Not God-fearing Christians that made America great, but other people that are on the other side of that are saying, maybe we should try to do this. Well, or maybe we should try to do that. And everything's just this great big experiment. And it goes down to in flames every time that it happens. So that, Greg, is what's going on with the VA, and it's a hard way to put it. And I know that some people are going to be mad at me about saying that, but it's the truth. Everything I'm telling you is the truth, 100%.
We have the same thing happening here, Captain McCormick. I know several people that have spoken out and been destroyed. In fact, I was speaking with a veteran yesterday who is facing loads of charges, is on house arrest. They have frozen his bank accounts. They have, and not only is it the liberal side of things that is going after some of them, it's also the conservatives and some of the quote-unquote self-styled red-pilled right-wing patriots that turn on each other and decide that everybody out there is too stupid to know what I know, therefore they're a psyop. But, I mean, you opened a big can of worms talking about the hiring process, and it's got to be so destructive to the morale of good fighting men and women. Not all the military and vets are good people. There are criminals in there. There are people, we've seen it, and so, but I mean, if you look at quote-unquote Admiral Rachel Levine, if you look at these Army recruitment commercials used to be cool. They were badass. Be all that you can be, right? Yeah, be tough, be bad, fly a jet. Now it's, wear a dress and drop lipstick on America's enemies. Our enemies must be laughing.
Well, they're laughing at all of this inner fighting too. I mean, they see it. And I pointed that out today. It's like, look, there's people that are going to say things that I don't agree with, and I have learned to listen and try to find, is there any value in that? And in some cases, there is value in listening to people that disagree with you. But when you talk about, let me tell you what the purpose of the United States Army was that I joined.
Yeah.
And the purpose of the United States Army was to close with and destroy the enemy by the use of fire and maneuver. Now, that doesn't mean kiss them, shake their hands. It means destroy, kill them, or make them surrender. And that's how we win wars. You don't win wars by all this other nonsense, these social experiments. It's not working. It does not work. It fails every time.
Yeah, and look at when you go to war without a clear objective, right? I mean, if you look at how Vietnam ended, if you look at how Desert Storm and Enduring Freedom and in Afghanistan, it's all seemed designed to drain blood and treasure and lower morale. To be quite honest with you. Yeah,
it's been a while. It's been a while since we've went for total victory, and total victory was accomplished in World War II. And,
right.
And I can tell you that we need to get back to that. Now, the fighting morale of the troops on the ground, I can tell you that the 26 months that I have in combat. And then I have friends that had, 4 and 5 years, going back and forth to these different combat zones. They were straight up warriors. They absolutely, they were the kind of people that, and the unit that I was last over with, they were the kind of people that would cross, a river on Christmas Eve in the middle of the winter, okay?
Yeah.
And with tomahawks and knives, and would butcher the enemy. We did that, okay? We did that during the Revolutionary War. And it's like people look at that as like, oh, that's so brutal. War is brutal. And the more brutal it is, the less time that you're going to spend fighting it.
Yeah.
That's just...
Right. Yeah. No, I've heard it over and over again. If you're going to do war, do war. Like, get it done. And, and a lot of it, too. I'm a pastor of a small church. There's times when we got to do war. And we don't mess around with our enemy. And it's how it's got to be. Gentlemen, we've got to go to a commercial break for our sponsors at Mojo 50. We'll be back right after this. I'm again, very thankful that you have been so very gracious with your time. Captain McCormick and Greg, thank you as well for the connection. We'll be right back after this. Everybody stick around for the second segment of Hour 1, Americanuck Radio.
You want to wake up refreshed, like you slept on a cloud? Get yourself the very best in bedding supplies today. You deserve it. Go to MyPillow.com and don't forget our very special promo code, Mojo50, for incredible savings.
At Meakin Designs, we're more than just a laser engraving and specialty design company. Much more. I'm Ron Phillips, co-owner of Meakin Designs, and if you can dream it, we can probably make it. We can custom laser cut and engrave on nearly all material. Great for one-of-a-kind gifts, home decor, business and specialty items, or personalized and logo designs created just for you or your company. Allow us to become your go-to gift and specialty project partner. Meakin Designs can help make your ideas a reality. We're ready to help you design and create that special gift for any occasion or engrave your personal or business logo on just about any product. View our designs at RomikaDesigns.com or simply email us with your ideas. We specialize in custom design and would be honored to have the opportunity to discuss it with you. Call us at 817-400-4040, email info@RomikaDesigns.com, or visit us on the web at RomikaDesigns.com.
5 major food distributors have suffered explosions at food processing and storage facilities in the last few months. 20 more facilities have been destroyed by fires over the last 4 months. War in Ukraine drags on and holds the looming threat of nuclear escalation. U.S. inflation is officially reported above 8%. Mobs of people are whipped into frenzy by an increasingly unstable class of political elites. We live in interesting times. Political, economic, and financial collapse are all very real threats to our way of life. If the worst happens, make sure you and your loved ones are prepared with emergency food and supplies from preparewithmojo50.com. That's preparewithmojo50.com. Coffee lovers everywhere now have the opportunity to do their part to save the planet with Al Gore's lab-grown coffee substitute. We, here at Coffee Drinkers for Climate Change, believe this is a terrible idea. While man-bun-wearing, soy latte-loving poodle walkers everywhere are in love with the eco-friendly lab-grown sadness water, Coffee Drinkers for Climate Change want to see the sea levels rise, and for New York City to join the lost city of Atlantis, 12,000 leagues beneath the sea.
American Pride Roasters, historically great coffee. Every pot brewed is an eco-disaster 100 times greater than the Fukushima extinction level event. So order yours today and do your part to hasten the end of the planet. You don't want to live forever, do you? AmericanPrideRoasters.com. That's AmericanPrideRoasters.com.
How dare you?
We dare. We dare.
Flat Earth, the moon landing, JFK, Biden won the election. Hey, lovelies. Does anyone have any new conspiracy theories? Because all the ones I know have come true. Join me, Ria Bow, here on Sunday Long Live Radio. Live every Sunday of the year, 5 a.m. Eastern Standard, 10 a.m. UK, and 9 p.m. New South Wales. I'll see you Sunday.
Americanuck Radio.
I would say the world's most underrated radio show, Americanuck Radio. This guy, Mike Phillip, is brilliant. I listen to him every day. Love your show. I really do. I'm a huge fan. Thank you for doing what you're doing.
Americanuck Radio.
One God.
Well, God loves the outlaw, but he doesn't love the sin. Well, God loves the outlaw, but he doesn't love the sin. Just to open up your heart to Jesus and just surely let you in.
Americanuck Radio.
Well, God loves the outlaw.
Welcome back to Americanuck Radio on Mojo 50 WBN 324. I'm Mike Phillip. We are in the second half of hour one. We've got my buddy, the King of Montreal, in exile down in Arizona, Mr. Greg freaking Meakin, and he has brought us a fantastic guest this
Exile,
day.
that's a great word. You always have a new word for me every Friday, Mikey.
Well, I've got
Exile.
writers,
I
and
like
they're
that.
not part of the guild, so they're not on strike.
Before I forget, we need to do episodes in the future, Mikey. Seriously, this has been incredible. Thank you, Captain. I mean, you're bringing it here to the show. This is new stuff. This is what we're all about on Friday. But what I just wanted to say is just shout out to these guys, of course. But maybe we do segments in the future. Maybe it's the first hour or something of just war stories. Because you should hear this guy's stories, Mike. You should hear, I mean, even my family's, you go back military-wise, I got stories of World War I trench warfare and mustard gas.
That's a good
Maybe
idea.
it'd be fun to actually have a true, because usually once the stories are told, they're gone, right? I've lost all my relatives
Yeah.
from World War II.
We'll call
I
it
reach
John
out,
Wayne Fridays.
Oh, dude, and before that, no matter what, okay, I love pivoting here. Captain, not to interrupt you here, Mikey, but I'm interrupting you. Please tell the story.
Let's hear it, Captain.
Sammy Davis. Sammy, please. And maybe a quick story of you being all shot up at the Baghdad airport.
Let's hear
I
it.
just want to hear that, because we did that on the air one night, and I was getting moved here, Captain, because I'm saying, dude, you're taking a butt kicking over there. So go ahead.
Yeah, well, Sammy Davis is a Medal of Honor recipient from Vietnam. Sammy Davis grew up in Indiana and, joined the Army, wanted to serve his country, and became an artilleryman and went over to Vietnam and was attached to the 9th Infantry Division. Now, if you ever watch the movie Forrest Gump, when they have the picture of President Johnson giving the Medal of Honor to Forrest Gump. Well, that was actually Sammy Davis's body. They put Tom Hanks's head on Sammy Davis's body. So and when you hear the story about, there's parts of the story where Forrest Gump keeps going back to get his friends. Well, Sammy Davis did that, and he was also hit in the buttocks, but was really, really, really hurt bad. He was injured by a beehive round, and there was just so much stuff that had went into this man's body, and he had to swim across a river to rescue people that were on the other side of the river, and the gentleman is just an absolute class of an individual. And when you talk about somebody that is humble, genuine, there he is, Sammy Davis, and he plays a mean harmonica. And the harmonica, he plays the song Shenandoah, and Shenandoah was a favorite song of his sergeant who was killed during this battle where Sammy got the Medal of Honor. And at night, his sergeant would say, you play that harmonica and you play Shenandoah, and that way I'll know where you're at, and that way he could go to sleep. And, and it just became a normal nightly thing that Sammy would play Shenandoah, and that was for his sergeant. And what's really amazing is how he tells that story about the song and about why he still plays it to this day, by the way. So if you see Sammy Davis, you'll rarely catch him without his harmonica, and he will put on an amazing show for you that'll just bring you to tears. What an amazing patriot and an American. The fact that he's not only my friend, but the fact that he openly admits to that, that's even really cool, right, Greg, when you got friends that actually admit they're your friends.
There you go.
Greg,
there you go. I'd never be a member of a club that would have me as a member, right? But no, what James, with due respect here, sir.
Yeah.
The story about Sammy, you forgot to tell him about that. Was it a howitzer that this guy tipped over? And killed masses, and he was shot like 32 times. You neglected to tell people that. And then he went over to cross the river, pick up one guy, and realized there were 2 other guys in the foxhole. So he did 2 trips.
Right. Oh, yeah. That's exactly right. See, Sammy Davis is one of those guys. He probably earned the Medal of Honor 2 or 3 times that night, and one of those events alone was a Medal of Honor event. The fact that he was able to get that gun turned around, point it and get a round off into the face of the enemy. That was a miracle that he was able to do that. And, it's a big gun. It's not just any, he definitely had, this incredible strength that carried him through that whole experience. And Sammy demonstrates that daily and he also has this saying. He says, you don't lose unless you quit trying. And that's his thing. He tells everybody, and he was the one that came out and was telling these veterans, don't let the enemy win. You made it home, and you come home and you let something else aggravate you and drive you to suicide. Don't do to yourself what the enemy could not do to you. And I think that that's a wonderful thing, and how that, we need to be living our lives by telling people that very thing, that, don't ever give up. Keep fighting. And what a heck of a story that he has. And if you ever look him up, look up Sammy Davis, Medal of Honor, Vietnam. Go check out Sammy, and I promise you, if you call Sammy Davis and you say, hey, James McCormick sent you, and he'll laugh and he'll say, yup, I know that guy.
I plan to use your contact.
Yeah, go ahead, call him, man. He would love to be on this show, because he's a man of faith. He loves God and country, man. I'm telling you, that's the kind of heroes we should elevate. We should be, if I want my kids to look up to men like Sammy Davis. That's what I want. I want them to look up and say, I want to be like that person. And more importantly, on our personal level, when we raise our children, we live a life, whether you've been in the military or you fought at a battle of Biop like I did, or in Vietnam like Sammy Davis did, you still live your life honorable, respectful, and you get up and you do the things that you need to do to set an example for your children, for your neighbors, for people that are around you. People are there are going to be people that even don't like me or Sammy Davis and will be, appalled at the fact that they gave us a medal for killing somebody, but that's not what we did. What we did is what Sammy did is he performed an act that saved so many more lives than we can ever account for. Generations are alive today because of the actions of Sammy Davis in Vietnam. There are people that are holding their grandkids right now, and generations that are going to live on because of what Sammy Davis did. And that's a fact. And nobody can take that from him or anybody else that's earned that medal. The Medal of Honor is the most sacred honor that we award the most esteemed and awesome patriots, and Sammy Davis is one of them. And I love that guy. I love him. He is a great person.
I just went and looked him up while you're talking here. I'm looking at him right now, and amazing. He enlisted in the U.S. Army, 10 years before I was born, 1965. The other thing that I was thinking about while you were talking about this man and the actual situation in a hot zone, the politics don't matter. That all goes out the window. Like young people back home, when they were spitting on these guys when they were coming home, they were mixing the politics with what these men went through, and it's no different anywhere else. I was speaking with a man from Iran, Colonel McGregor. Hey, I was talking to this man, McCormick, sorry, and he was telling me that, you know, during the Iran-Iraq war, when they were fighting with Saddam Hussein, he was in school, and a man walked in the classroom and said, you're in the Army, that's it. You don't get to call your parents. You don't get nothing. You do a couple weeks of basic. He said, then they put us on a transport, and we drove to this place. He said, I was in a covered back of a truck for 3 hours, didn't even know where I was. He said, I got out, and there was bullets going by my head, and they were trying to kill my friends. So at that point, the politics don't matter. You're just fighting for your life and the people around you. And I think that gets lost on people when they get caught up in the politics of it, trying to place it on the shoulders of these men.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I've never, I've taken people out, you know, to Arlington Cemetery. I want you to look out there and tell me which of those people are Democrats or Republicans laying under those stones.
Right.
And nobody knows that. And but when we look at the politics of it, as you're saying,
yep,
you know, there's definitely, now I will tell you, there is a malicious movement against our military, you know, trying to soften them up. And there's also a malicious movement against people that served in the military. And I've seen this, and it's extremely disturbing. Everybody in America, and it's going on in Canada too, as you explained very, very eloquently, the warriors that are being hated because of whatever. And you're right, it's on both sides, because I've had people on the right attack me for my participation in the Iraq war. And I can tell you this right now,
yep,
that you can look at, it's easy to do a background check on me or Sammy Davis. You can just pop our names in there. A lot of stuff comes up. And I go to sleep every night with a clear conscience, because I'm telling you right now, there's a whole big difference between killing the enemy and going out and slaughtering and murdering people. And that's not what we did. We went out and destroyed the enemy by the use of fire maneuver. And I sleep very well. And you know what? If my country called me to do it again, I'd go do it again. If somebody came in to try to, you know, hurt my family or my friends, trust me, I can flip that switch and go back to that same guy, you know, 15, 20 years ago and still do the same thing today. But we prefer to live in peace because we believe that we can communicate and still have a civil conversation and fix a lot of things instead of going to war, because we've seen what war does, and it destroys and destroys and destroys. But when you turn that juggernaut loose, you can't hardly get it to stop. So I ask everybody, take an opportunity, take a breath, you know, stop hating your neighbor, learn to love your neighbor again, and learn to work things out in a civil manner. Because if not, the only other thing that's going to happen is people are going to start shooting at each other. And some cities do.
Oh, Captain, please, even if it's a brief story, please tell the story on that note of the zebra truck.
We have 15 minutes before we go to our network break, and I would like to bring you back, if we could, Captain McCormick, to talk about the very real possibility that you could get called up to fight Russia, China, and Iran, and now we've got a new conflict that looks like brewing up in Africa. I'd like to get into all that, but if you could give us that story that Greg is asking about, that would be fantastic. I just wanted to throw that in.
Yeah, no problem.
Excellent.
So when we went to Iraq, we got a mission to do convoy security. And what I had learned, you know, over there was that, you know, the enemy identifies two things. They identify strength and they identify weakness. That's fact. And it's the same thing with a bully. A bully identifies those that have strength. And you don't always have to win every fight. But if that bully knows that there's a price that they got to pay every time they come get your lunch money, okay, and they got to fight you for it, they're going to start going to somebody else that's weaker. And they also identify weakness by that same token. The enemy in Iraq was no different. So we always responded with violence. I mean, I hate to even say it that way, but that's just the truth. We responded. You shot at us, and we were not just going to return fire, but we were going to leave the road, chase you down, and either kill or capture you, because I didn't want to leave you for the next convoy to come up the road and be ambushed.
Right.
And so what had happened is that our vehicles were all painted the same way. And I noticed we're always getting attacked in these different places, And so we decided to paint what I thought were tiger stripes, okay, on our vehicle. But we only had certain color paint. We had black paint, we had gray paint. Okay, so we painted this thing gray and black, and it definitely looked like a zebra. Okay, so it was a beautiful truck. But what was beautiful about it is that, the enemy knew when they saw it coming down the road. After a while, they recognized that vehicle, and you weren't always getting shot at like you were before. So we noticed a definite difference in the way the enemy responded to us, and they learned to respect us in a way because you're identified. So that Zebra gun truck, everybody knew it all over the Iraqi theater of operations. And we had some officers, and I was an officer at the time. We had some officers that didn't like it. They considered us to be elitist or whatever, but we never changed the pattern on that thing, and we rode for, several months, just several bullet holes in that vehicle. I mean, and everybody that rode on it was either wounded once, twice, or in some cases 3 times, So there was a whole crew of heroes that crewed that thing. And I think that's what's important about the Zebra gun truck. And, war is war. And there's a lot of things that are written about what I did, what our unit did over there. And they do a real good job at articulating that. There's a lot of videos even that show some of the combat footage and the action that we were involved in. But ultimately, it comes down to the individual that's in there with you. Are they going to run, or are they going to fight? And I was very blessed and fortunate to have a whole crew that decided that they would not run, that they would fight. And
why were they afraid of you, James? Why were they afraid of you? What did you do to them, James? Don't be shy.
We hammered them. I mean, we gunned them down. We chased them down. We shot them down. And if they had a weapon, they got shot. That was just the way that it was. And we had no mercy whatsoever when it came to warfare. And that's not bravado speaking here. That's just plain fact. We were in the middle of an ambush one time where we sat in the apex of this ambush so that we could get the rest of our convoy in a gate. In the gate. It was an L-shaped ambush. And the apex is the center where the 2 L's come together. And if you get in that point, you can bust that ambush up really good. You're going to take all the heavy fire, but what you'll also do is you'll force the enemy, in many cases, to have to pick up and move and rotate, because you're right there in the middle of all that they're doing. And I can just tell you, I can remember being up on this, in this particular battle outside of Bayat, working the enemy with the 50 cal. I mean, just hammering. That thing is a beast. I don't know if you've ever fired a 50 caliber machine gun, but what we did is we double linked 100 round belts of ammunition, and I used a larger 20 millimeter ammunition can, and we had like 300 rounds belted together. So I didn't have to change ammo every 100 rounds. I had a lot of ammo to burn through, and before we had to change it. But in one case, I can remember firing, and it stopped, and I thought, well, I've got a jam. I'm out of ammo, because sometimes you get caught up in it. You might bust through 300 rounds real quick. And I remember looking up and seeing that that the belt had been severed by a bullet. So a bullet had hit the 50 cal belt and broke my link. So as I'm reaching up to reload the 50 cal machine gun, a bullet came through the ammo can and hit me in the hand. And as I was, reaching down to, obviously it's like touching a hot stove, you're pulling back. I get back up and continue to try to do what I can do, but my hand's just squirting blood out everywhere. And I look up and I see a guy come up over the bridge, and I don't hear the shot, but I feel what it felt like was somebody took a sledgehammer and just slammed me right in the chest. And, I learned later that he shot me in my ballistic vest, and I fell down in the bottom of the vehicle. And this is that point, I want to tell you guys that you come face to face with the reality that you're not going to live forever. Yeah. And I learned that real quick. And at that point, I could hear the mumbling and everything that's going on outside. And I can remember hearing a voice in my head say, "Get up, get up, get up." And I kept trying to pull myself up. And as I was pulling myself up, I looked over to the left, and I saw a guy throw something, and it was a grenade. He was trying to throw a hand grenade in the vehicle. And I ducked my head down, and when I came back up, the only thing that I could grab quickly was a flare. And I had this red pop flare, and I just thought instinctively to take this flare, and I fired it at these guys and dropped the flare casing in the bottom of the vehicle and grabbed my rifle and shot these two guys that were probably 20 feet from our vehicle. And then went right back to the 50 caliber machine gun and started to reload. And but I splattered the guy on top of the bridge because he thought he had killed me. And as he was down reloading, it all just worked out perfect timing. I'll just tell you, as he was reloading the 50 cal, I had just charged that 50 cal and had it all ready to fire. And here he comes up over the bridge, and he's leaning to fire at somebody else. And it was just instinctively, and everything. I mean, he was on a concrete overpass bridge over an interstate. You just saw concrete, everything just flying through the air. But the one thing I remember seeing was that rifle hitting the road and bouncing. And it was just the most oddest thing. But that guy, while he was killed in this interaction, was a good sniper. He was deadly, and almost, if I had not had that vest on, I would not be alive today. And that ceramic plate is in the West Virginia Department of Archives. It's the Cultural Center. It's in Charleston, West Virginia. If anybody wants to go see what that looks like with a big bullet hole in it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's funny. Time. Like in all that, in all of those things taking place, your memory is focused on that rifle bouncing off the road, like how you zero in on these little key aspects of the things that are happening, and just and you can go back to it so easily today.
Yeah. The other thing that was very vivid, I mean, there's other things that I don't talk about, you know what I mean, that not because I'm ashamed of it, just because there's no need to talk about it. It's just, the fact is men die. No man has ever died easy. I'll just tell you that. So all these people who watch these movies and you see these guys, they sling these bullets down range. Let me tell you something. I have never seen anybody die easy. And I've told, my sons went to war, and I told my sons that. Don't go over there thinking this is going to be like Call of Duty. because if you shoot somebody, they're going to get back up and they're going to fight for their life because that's what they're fighting for.
Yeah.
And you have to remember that. You know, it's like, it's easy when it's a game. It's easy when nobody's shooting back at you. But it's really hard when somebody's pumping 100 rounds of 7.62 by 39, or they're popping you with a 7.62 by 54 out of an SBD Dragunov sniper rifle. At that point in time, that separates, the men from the boys, or the women from the girls, however you want to put it. But I'm just going to tell you, that's why we've got to make our military tough, because they got to be able to take a shot to the chest and climb back up in the gunner's hatch, because surrender is not an option with these people.
That's it. We've got to go to a network break. I'm really enjoying listening to you, James, and I appreciate this. Everybody, we'll be right back while Mojo 50 goes to network news and station identification. Stick around for hour 2 of Americanuck Radio. This is good stuff today.
This is the seditious, rabble-rousing, liberty-loving, home of fun, entertaining, and compelling talk. Mojo 50.
Never supposed to happen in America. Fox News, I'm Therese Crowley. Donald Trump's response to his third pre-election arraignment, and today calling it election interference.
The former president stood and pleaded not guilty to 4 criminal charges stemming from his alleged efforts to overturn the 2020 presidential election results, including conspiracy to defraud the United States, conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding, obstruction of an official proceeding, and conspiracy against rights. He was released on his own recognizance into the care of a high-security Secret Service escort. He was whisked from an underground courthouse garage to the airport and spoke out before returning to New Jersey.
This is a very sad day for America. This is the persecution of the person that's leading by very, very substantial numbers in the Republican primary and leading Biden by a lot.
Former President Trump shared on Truth Social, quote, "I need one more indictment to ensure my election."
A group of House Democrats who impeached Donald Trump, led by Adam Schiff, are calling on the Judicial Conference to authorize a live broadcast of the court proceedings on Trump's federal trial. And a transcript of Devin Archer's interview with House investigators raising new questions about Joe and Hunter Biden's foreign influence for personal gain.
It focuses a great deal on, quote, the brand. Devin Archer told the House Oversight Committee the brand was the Biden family, and that delivered value to Burisma. In the transcript, Archer said Ukrainian natural gas oligarch Mykola Zlochevsky faced, quote, pressure from Ukrainian authorities during an investigation. Archer said they wanted Hunter Biden to help relieve some of that pressure. Archer said the Biden name was key to the survival of Burisma. Archer told House investigators that, quote, people would be intimidated to mess with Burisma because of the brand, the Biden name.
Fox's Chad Pergram. America is listening to Fox News.
We remind all of our listeners that the views and opinions of the show hosts and guests appearing on Mojo 50 Radio are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of Cuddle Me Buff LLC, its owners and partners, or this network. Thank you for listening to Mojo 50 Radio.
I'll bet you've noticed there are food shortages happening just about everywhere. If you think it'll get worse before it gets better, don't get caught unprepared to feed your family. Prepare with Mojo50.com.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right. For about $50 a month, you'll get lightning-fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back. But you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now. 800-931-2032. 800-931-2032. 800-931-2032. That's 800-931-2032.
You know, I feel like we've had this conversation before about this very subject, about the world being kind of wackadoodle, and about the fact that you should have, your go bag ready with your medications and your paperwork, but that you should also have a backup food supply. Well, that's what preparewithmojo50.com is all about. I know it sounds crazy, but it's very likely that we could have more shortages on more food items, and wouldn't it be nice to know that you have a little pad, a little insurance? Preparewithmojo50.com.
Of the near future. Here we go.
With great mojo comes great responsibility. Mojo 50.
And crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea.
Americanuck Radio. News, opinion, and a little irreverence from both sides of the 49th parallel. This is Americanuck Radio with Mike Phillip.
Welcome back to Hour 2 of Americanuck Radio. I'm Mike Phillip, and we're live again. We've got Greg freaking Meakin, my good friend, and a man that I consider a brother. I love this man, and that's why I bust on him so freely. And Captain McCormick commented at the beginning, that's a sign of true friendship. I'm
still in the room, right?
And I'm going to keep talking like I don't even hear him, like he's not even here, just to deliberately disrespect the man because I love him so much.
Oh, again, let the fisticuffs begin. Here we go.
Greg.
Here we go.
You done good.
Once again, Captain, the show degenerates to a mudslinging contest between Canadians, right? Dual citizens. We don't know what we are. We don't know if we're Canadian, American. We just know that we love each other, man. Me and Mike Phillip we're going back now here, Mikey, a couple of years. So,
it is, yeah. But
this has been one of the most entertaining experiences here listening to the show. Thank you, Captain, on that one.
Absolutely. And Captain McCormick, you ended off with explaining to your sons the reality of warfare. And it's funny, my son, when he was young, he came to me and he said he was going to join the military. And I could tell that he still had kind of a movie G.I. Joe mindset where you talked about men not dying easy, and there's a lot of there can be crying, there can be calling out for mama, and pretty horrible things you're going to see. And I told my son, I actually told him, don't do it. I said, I don't think it'll be worth it for you, especially in the time that we live in. And especially not fighting for the Canadian military. They're not going to treat you well. And that was many years ago, and he is 30 years old today. He actually recently came to me and said, Dad, thank you so much. He says, I have friends that joined the military, and now they can't leave the basement of their mom's house, and they're huddled in a corner, and their life is a mess. He said, I'm so glad that I didn't do it. The other thing that I mentioned before we came live in the second hour here, we have children in our Sunday school. We have families that are trying to raise their children in sound doctrine and living a holy and righteous life and being a light in a very dark world. We have young children that are going into the public school system. I'll give you a specific example. They were having Pride Week in the Edmonton school system, and this man in my church, he came to me, we talked about it, and we prayed about it, and then he emailed the teachers and said, look, if you're going to tolerate that, you're going to tolerate us, and my sons are going to bring a King James Bible to school and have it on their desk. And the teachers actually, God granted us favor in that situation because they came back, they emailed them back and said, yeah, absolutely. So here we've got these little children talking about Jesus in the Edmonton public school system. They've got their Bibles and they are having little Bible studies because people are asking them about it and they're talking about it during recess and the lunch break, and having little grade 3 theological debates with the Muslim students. But like, we're sending them out into warfare. There are things in this world, not just in the theater of battle, but in everyday life, that seek to trap and kill and steal and destroy. And we've got to teach our kids to navigate through this world and not be of it. And there's a lot of really good lessons we can learn from these stories of the brutal warfare that you were engaged in, Captain McCormick.
Yeah, and it's you can. And the thing that you can teach people to live with honor and decency. There was a transformational moment during that time as well. I was always brought up in the faith, in the Word, and I'm glad you mentioned King James Bible. That's the only Bible that we had in our home.
That's what we use.
We, as a kid, my grandmother, was very astute in teaching us about the Bible, and I learned a lot. As a kid, you didn't really appreciate it as much as you did when you became an adult.
Agreed.
And you started facing demons and realizing that there are real devils in this world. There really are bad people. There's pedophiles. There's terrorists. There's murderers. There's thugs. There's people that have zero. You want to talk about people that have a moral compass that's out of whack. There are people that have never had a moral compass.
Yep.
And so, and it's on all sides. And some of these people are so, hell bent for for a lack of better terms, but that's where they're at. And that's where they're going if they don't get right. That's for sure.
Yep.
But they will make your kids' lives miserable. So while I did not like disciplining my children, I did not like forcing them. I mean, I wish that every day was just, oh, Daddy, you're the greatest, sunshine and lollipops and rainbows and stuff. And I'm talking about God's promised rainbow, folks. That's the rainbow I'm talking about. But you had to raise them to deal with adversity and evil and wicked.
Yeah, you have to. Otherwise, that's Bible. We're not supposed to be just sweet and nice all the time. There's times. Look, the Bible says that foolishness is bound up in the heart of a child, and the rod of correction will drive it from him. If you do not get hard on your kids once in a while, they're not going to be prepared for when the world does. And I'll tell you what else. If you never know punishment or consequence growing up in your life, you will know punishment and consequence from a cold, uncaring world that seeks to eat you and consume you, and they will run into it later on if they don't experience small doses of it growing up. It's the ultimate act of love. Not only that, Captain, but the Bible says that who God loves, he chastens. Despise not the chastening of the Lord. I have experienced God's anger in very, very, very small doses, and let me tell you, I walked away very much afraid to act the same way again, and I'm so glad that he did.
Yeah, you're right. You're exactly right.
Yep.
You've got to have that, and you got to have that kind of instruction. And I saw that, in the military, I saw people that come in, especially in the latter years before I retired. They didn't like being yelled at or, people raising your voice to them and things like that. I got called back to active duty during COVID. And you want to talk about, a transition. I retired in 2009, okay? 2020, I'm back in uniform as a major doing, military intelligence and working in the J shop. And running into some of these younger kids that had come in, they were soft. I'm just telling you, there was a lot of softness there. They definitely didn't appreciate, the old guy's humor. And, my humor was, I guess, that I expected you to, to be here in the proper uniform, doing what you're supposed to be doing. We'd give you an hour lunch and, that not an hour and a half. I mean, there were just things that I've noticed that have changed. And the other thing I've noticed too, is you can tell the kids that are raised in a home without much discipline, they're the smart aleck know-it-alls, that walk up and down the street, and they might do well, but when they hit about 30 to 35 years old, they're going to be the ones that you're going to see that are going to be struggling. They're never going to go any further than where they're at. And that's a shame.
Yeah, it is, totally. Let's switch up here. There's a lot going on in the world right now. You have the conflict in Ukraine with Russia. I am not somebody, just so you know a little bit about me, I don't think that Vladimir Putin woke up one day and said, I think I'll invade Ukraine. This goes back a long way. It has to do with, there's many different factors. It's not simple, but, you've got NATO encroaching on Russia and surrounding them, funding Ukraine. You had a lot of dirty stuff going on. You had the color revolution in 2014 with the Obama regime. Now we have a situation in Africa brewing up between Niger and two of its neighbors who are bent on kicking out Western nations who they claim have been exploiting them for gold, diamonds, and uranium. In many ways, it sounds like Alberta's beef with Ottawa, to be quite honest with you. And they want self-autonomy, but you've got Antony Blinken in the U.S. State Department going over to a block of West African nations talking about attacking them, their neighbors, Mali and I can't remember the other name of the other country, are saying that we could. It looks very much like the world is a tinderbox right now. China, Russia, Iran, the BRICS nations, this conflict in Africa. It could be that you and several others might end up being called up in the near future. Captain McCormick, can we get into that?
Well, there's a couple things that I've watched and that I do dream about. Okay, and I'll just tell you, and you can take this as any way you want to take it. I lay around and I think that probably the best thing that could happen is to draft everybody 18, men or women, 18 to 60 in this country, and then call guys like me back to be their instructors, because I'm telling you, life as they know it would absolutely change. But we can't be that and train them to go fight these wars and to do these things with kid gloves on. It's going to have to be, if you go to a drafting military, which is what it looks like you're going to have to do if we get into a major engagement, I think that you're going to see a need to go back to a very hard style level of training. And I would be happy to participate in that. As a matter of fact, I think it would do this country some good. The other thing, when you talk about Antony Blinken and some of these others, well, number one, again, we go back to qualifications to be in a leadership role.
Yep.
Obviously, he's void of that. There are many of them. There are many of them, they call them, I love how they talk about politicians. They're out there fighting for you. They don't know what fighting is. They have no idea what real fighting is. And I'm not even talking about, they don't even do the political fighting anymore. What they do is they cut deals that benefits them.
Yep.
And right now they're looking at, the ship is sinking with this administration. Okay, its ship is sinking with this administration. And so now, how do you distract everybody off of this sinking ship? You send the country into war. And I think a lot of this stuff that they're doing is done to distract. Look what they're doing to Trump. Look what they're doing to other people. You know, it's a distraction. Take your eyes off what's going on with Hunter and Joe Biden. Don't worry about what they're doing. Don't pay attention to what they're doing. But the country is paying attention. And the silent majority, as Greg Meakin was saying, is looking and they're waiting. They're going to wake up and they're going to find out that all the money that you all are pouring in to try to get your saviors elected, it ain't going to mean squat to us Americans out here that are going to get up and we're going to vote for the right person and not for some clown that just happens to be up there blustering and telling the world how great that they are. Because when I watch somebody brag about themselves to the degree that I see politicians bragging on themselves, it brings me back to the 7 deadly sins, okay? And you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yep.
Why would you elect someone that is so prideful? It is one of they're lustful, they're prideful. They've got all of this evil wickedness inside of them.
Vanity.
And this country, vanity, terrible. You know? Anyways, I think that to go back to your original question, yes, I think we're on a pathway for that. But I think we're on that pathway because of the political climate that we have. And it's just like, you know, if you see somebody that's trying to get away from the cops, you know, and they're running through a building, they're throwing down everything they can to get between them and the cops to try to, you know, create an obstacle.
Right.
And this is what you have a bunch of kids that are running out of a store trying to throw and take as much stuff as they can with them as they go.
You know, I was talking with my friend down in Mobile, Alabama, and he was talking about how that, they get hurricanes coming up in the Gulf. And he said, you know, a hurricane, people, they can be destructive, but they also cleanse. They clean everything up like a giant vacuum and cleans it up. And what if things are so messed up beyond all fixing that what if a hurricane or just something so big that it kind of cleans it up, you know what I'm saying? Where that's actually the only way of fixing it is wrecking half of it.
Yeah. Well, you know, the sad thing about that is, and you're right about that, the sad thing about that and what we're talking about is, you know, you hear a lot of people talking about war.
Yep.
And this is on both sides. They're talking about war here in the States.
Yeah.
You know, another civil war. Most of the people that are talking and worshiping and wanting that have never actually been to a real war.
Yeah.
Those are the people that are unfamiliar with what submunitions, what a roadside bomb, with what a real insurgency will do. Now, I'm going to tell you what it'll do. It'll turn neighbor against neighbor, and they will not care about your children. They will kill your animals. They will kill your livestock. They will kill your children. They will kill each other. They'll poison your water supply. And people say, no, they wouldn't do that. Baloney. I just saw that in Iraq. They did that in Iraq when the tribes went against each other as they were jockeying for power. After Saddam left, we left that big vacuum. And what did they do? They went out and they kidnapped each other. They murdered each other.
Yeah, settling old scores, hey?
Yes, settling old scores.
Yeah.
Look what happened in the former Yugoslavian Republic when it broke down. Kosovo, Croatia, Serbia, all those countries now, you know, they have deep hatred for each other, and they murdered countless people. I mean, I can tell you this. I have a clear conscience. I don't know how anybody can take the life of a child, even the child of someone that happens to be your sworn enemy.
Yeah.
To me, the millstone will be put around your neck. And I'm telling you, those people have no idea what this internal civil war does, especially to people that, number one, we have a country that's obviously, you know, we have a lack of morality in this country. That's obvious, okay? Throw a civil war into that. They don't believe in heaven. They don't believe in hell. They think this is the only thing that they've got. They have no faith. They have no love. They have no compassion. Throw a rifle in their hands and say, kill everybody on this side of the city.
Yeah.
And they will. Everything living, breathing.
Yes.
Because there's no consequences for their actions. or they think.
Or they think, yeah. No, I mean, in an American Civil War, I mean, in the first Civil War, you didn't have farmers with 50 cows. You didn't have like the the amount of guys like you who are trained in it would be hell.
It would be hell.
It'd be hell. And I mean, all your grandma and her diabetes medication. Think about the supply lines, the roads being destroyed, supplies not coming into cities. I mean, you'd have cannibalism.
Yep. You absolutely would.
Yep.
Hey, Mike.
Yes, Greg.
A quick question for the captain. He's really spurred my interest here
go
a little
ahead.
bit. Just a quick question, and on subject. But the captain's talking about what I'm hearing is that the VA, the government, obviously government-run entities, especially on the military side, medical and stuff, that you need a good dose of the private sector. Example, perhaps an Elon Musk private sector taking over Twitter, a virtual public forum, and just a grease fire. That Twitter was a grease fire, and especially leading up to the election and stuff. Just really looking for your comment on this, Captain, as far as what your thoughts are.
6 minutes to commercial break, gentlemen.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Let me hit that real quick. So a prime example of that is how the government spends money. They spend money on a fiscal year. Right now, you're in the fourth quarter. It started July, August, September. They're spending money like a drunken sailor right now, because if they don't spend it, they won't get the same amount or even more next year. And that's something that you can't do in corporate America, because in corporate America, you have to watch every penny. Like, I run a museum here in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, called the Point Pleasant River Museum Lake and Ray Cook Learning Center, and I track every penny. I know that every month I need to make $8,333 more or less in order to meet the budget for the year. That's to pay payrolls, to keep the lights on, to keep everything moving, operating smoothly here. Whereas in the government sector, a lot of times you get a blank check. And that is a big problem that we have. And in the civilian sector, you know, you have their own problems that you have there as well. And here I have a problem finding employees. So where I would love to be able to order people to go to work and to do what they're supposed to do. But in this case, you don't have that opportunity, because I had people that came to work here and would not do nothing and would dare you to make them to do anything, you know. So it's just the way that it is.
The other thing, too, is that the civilian supply side also opens doors for nepotism and fueling conflict. I mean, if you have a senator that has a nephew that has a company that makes, let's say, IV hoses for Devil Dock units, you have a financial incentive to keep it going. And I think there's that comes into play as well.
You're right. You're absolutely right. Nepotism is rampant. You know, just look at our White House right now. You got a problem there.
Yeah.
You know, you got a lot of things that are going on with the elected officials as well. We've got elected officials that have their wives and their spouses that are. Now, can you imagine electing somebody whose wife is a registered foreign agent for Russia and China? Could you imagine? Who
Mitch
would elect
McConnell.
a person? Yeah, well, we got one here, Patrick Morrissey, right here. You know, he's running for West Virginia. You know, I can't even believe it.
That's a big list.
Yeah, there's a long list. You're right.
Oh, yeah. No doubt about it. I mean, but, I mean, it's all got to come to an end one day. The other thing that's interesting about this, too, Captain McCormick, and you'll always hear me bringing it back to this, I tell people, read the 3rd chapter of Isaiah. He talks about how your judges are corrupt, women and children rule over you. The base shall behave proudly against the ancient. The women are cosmopolitan. They're more about their jewelry and looking all Real Housewives of Beverly Hills from block to block, from Palookaville to Cincinnati. And it's the same thing over and over and over again. And God warns over and over again the very things that people are starting to fear, like food shortages, disease, and war. That has been over and over again. I mean, people think this gay stuff, this LGBT teaching the kids, it's not just a matter of lust. That definitely comes into play, but it's also textbook how to weaken a nation and bring it to its own destruction, because God lifts his protection from them and brings these things on them due to their own actions. 2 minutes to commercial break. Your comments, Captain McCormick.
Yeah, it's textbook exactly what they did to bring in communism. They victimized people. They
kill the farmers.
Look, it is. It's textbook, folks. And then they'll take everything away from you, and then you won't own anything. And you see how the Soviet Union played out, right?
Yep.
A lot of people in this country think that that's the way we should go, that everybody has this that you get the same amount on your plate. And then whatever happened, to meritocracy. Where has meritocracy gone in America? We've got to bring that back. You earn, you merit, you get what you earn. That is what you get.
That's it, 100%. We got to go to our commercial break. This is a fascinating conversation, by the way. Again, thank you, Greg, for reaching out to your friend. And I'm impressed, Greg, with your personality, the caliber of people that you're able to connect with is just mind-blowing.
Given my personality.
Well done. Blind hog finds an acorn every now and then. We'll be back with segment 2 of Hour 2 of Americanuck Radio. God bless Greg Meakin. We'll be back right after this.
You want to wake up refreshed, like you slept on a cloud. Get yourself the very best in bedding supplies today. You deserve it. Go to MyPillow.com, and don't forget our very special promo code, MOJO50, for incredible savings.
At Meakin Designs, we're more than just a laser engraving and specialty design company. Much more. I'm Ron Phillips, co-owner of Meakin Designs, and if you can dream it, we can probably make it. We can custom laser cut and engrave on nearly all material. Great for one-of-a-kind gifts, home decor, business and specialty items, or personalized and logo designs created just for you or your company. Allow us to become your go-to gift and specialty project partner. Meakin Designs can help make your ideas a reality. We're ready to help you design and create that special gift for any occasion or engrave your personal or business logo on just about any product. View our designs at romikadesigns.com or simply email us with your ideas. We specialize in custom design and would be honored to have the opportunity to discuss it with you. Call us at 817-400-4040, email info@romikadesigns.com, or visit us on the web at romikadesigns.com.
5 major food distributors have suffered explosions at food processing and storage facilities in the last few months. 20 more facilities have been destroyed by fires over the last 4 months. War in Ukraine drags on and holds the looming threat of nuclear escalation. U.S. inflation is officially reported above 8%. Mobs of people are whipped into frenzy by an increasingly unstable class of political elites. We live in interesting times. Political, economic, and financial collapse are all very real threats to our way of life. If the worst happens, make sure you and your loved ones are prepared with emergency food and supplies from preparewithmojo50.com. That's preparewithmojo50.com. Coffee lovers everywhere now have the opportunity to do their part to save the planet with Al Gore's lab-grown coffee substitute. We, here at Coffee Drinkers for Climate Change, believe this is a terrible idea. While man-bun-wearing, soy latte-loving poodle walkers everywhere are in love with the eco-friendly lab-grown sadness water, coffee drinkers for climate change want to see the sea levels rise. And for New York City to join the lost city of Atlantis, 12,000 leagues beneath the sea.
American Pride Roasters, historically great coffee. Every pot brewed is an eco-disaster 100 times greater than the Fukushima extinction level event. So order yours today and do your part to hasten the end of the planet. You don't want to live forever, do you? AmericanPrideRoasters.com. That's AmericanPrideRoasters.com.
How dare you?
We dare. We dare.
Flat Earth, the moon landing, JFK, 5G, Biden won the election. Hey, lovelies, does anyone have any new conspiracy theories? Because all the ones I know have come true. Join me, Ria Bow, here on Sunday Long Live Radio, live every Sunday of the year, 5 a.m. Eastern Standard, 10 a.m. UK, and 9 p.m. New South Wales. I'll see you Sunday.
Americanuck Radio.
I would say the world's most underrated radio shows. Americanuck Radio. This guy, Mike Phillip, is brilliant. I listen to him every day. Love your show. I really do. I'm a huge fan. Thank you for doing what you're doing.
Americanuck Radio.
One God.
I'm gonna walk on the stairs, 'cause I know my Jesus answers all my prayers. Will I know when he calls me to my home high? I'll walk them golden stairs when I die.
Americanuck Radio.
When Jesus says to me,
Thank you, Elvis, for bringing us in, talking about them golden stairs. And we are live with Greg Meakin on a Dueling-Citizen Friday, and our much appreciated and esteemed guest, Captain James McCormick. And Captain McCormick, we have about 20 minutes left in this show. At the end of every show, it is 3 o'clock Central Standard Time, which happens to be the 9th hour. If you read the book of Acts, the apostles went up to the temple to pray at the 9th hour, and we started doing that here at the end of the show, completely ignorant to what was going on in the rest of the world. And it turns out that there were lots of church organizations meeting at the exact same time. So we have a large group of people that drop what they're doing at 3 o'clock Central Standard Time and lift up the name of Jesus. And so you are welcome to join us for 9th hour prayer today. If you have people in your life that you love that need the hand of God and deliverance, whatever the case might be, that's what we do. The other thing I would like to tell you is that the Book of Acts Gathering of Alberta, which I am the pastor of, we have had huge miracles, works of God. He's doing a fantastic work here. And if you ever want to hear more about that, I would be really happy to have a conversation with you about it, sir. The things that happened in the book of Acts are very much happening today. Rest assured, we're seeing it. And so, like I said, we got about 20 minutes left here. I'd kind of like to open it up. We've talked about a great deal of things. Greg, you've been sitting there very, very patiently, and your brain has been just swimming, I'm guessing, with things that you wanted to bring up. But I appreciate your restraint in not jumping in. But I'd like to give you an opportunity to steer the boat. So hop into the captain's chair, take the wheel, and steer the ship, Greg.
Wow, in 1970s Quebec, you never know what that would take me to, right? Just to jump and take the wheel here. No, I just can't believe how entertaining this has been. The key to radio is that it's entertaining, that it's interesting.
Very good.
And this is really how it has been from minute to minute. There's not been really a minute of airspace or boring stuff. Greg Meakin excluded on that one, right, Mike?
I'm glad you said
it. But it really is what I love, and it's your brand, Mike. Remember, we're going to do a spoof on it someday that you're the great connector. Oh yes, Mike's the great connector.
All right, enough about Mike Phillip. Let's talk to our guest.
But you are. But that's what the guest is all about, because I'm just sitting here saying just what an interesting guest, what an applicable guest for this brand and this message. So this is just the show has been itself. It has been Mike Phillip, of course, facilitating, but the guest of honor is indeed Captain McCormick. And
one thing, Greg. One thing, we should let him tell everybody where to find his broadcast and his work. Do you have a website, or where can they find you, Captain?
Yeah, absolutely. As a matter of fact, we've got a broadcast tonight on Blog Talk Radio, and you can find us at blogtalkradio.com, and you type in the Brain Injury Radio Network, and it is Continue Mission. And we look at around 150,000 listens each week on our show. It's a wonderful platform, 2 hours. Tonight we're actually going to be talking about the rise of, exactly what we were talking about a little bit ago, how that fascism or communism is rising in America, and it's not what people think. They want to think that it's the alt-right. It is the left, man. That's who's doing it. That's who's destroying your rights. That's who's coming after your guns. That's who's coming after your kids, because they want your kids to be indoctrinated to turn them against you. Look what Hitler did with the youth. Okay, so we're going to talk about that as well. We're going to talk about what they did in the Soviet Union. And how that they had the rise of all of these, where they took the youth and they turned the youth against the parents, and they became reporters on them. They'd report them, turn them in.
Yep.
So this show is going to be really exciting tonight. And we have some great guests that come on. Of course, Greg and Val have been on there. We've talked about Alberta and the 51st movement. We're big supporters of that, by the way.
Excellent.
I am going to make a trip to Alberta because I want to meet some of you patriots that are up there. This is history in the making, and I want to meet some of the people that are making that history. I think it's very important.
I will buy you a coffee and possibly a donut if you come to Edmonton, Alberta, Captain McCormick.
The coffee, donut, I got to lay off the donuts.
Okay, I will make it a coffee.
That, you're so Canadian, Mike. Possibly a donut. Like you might not be able to spring for the extra $2.
Well,
right?
Not everybody likes them. Yeah, and I like what you said about this subverting of the youth. Though I have Mao Zedong's biography, and in it, he talked about how they found that the most devastatingly effective soldier in a culture war was a prepubescent or teen girl, because they would turn on their own family on a dime, and if there was any old grudges, you didn't let me stay out past 6 o'clock, whatever, they would turn in their own family and identify with the state, because in their foolish juvenile mind, they were easy to take down. Just a little while ago, we had a man trying to declare a World Heritage Site in China on the scene, where they would bring Communist Party officials to a village, and somebody had to tell on someone. No matter what people did or didn't do, there had to be an accusation, an example made, and this man now is trying to get this site in China declared a World Heritage Site, because it was the place where he falsely accused his own mother and watched her beat to death. Those of you who want this to happen here, that is where it will go. We are having Confucius Institutes teaching our children to go this exact same route, and you're simply being fooled into walking into your own death, but not only yours, but that of everyone and everything that you love, and you won't realize it till it's too late. Captain McCormick.
Yeah, you're exactly right, and I think that we need to get back to what they call the traditional family, and traditional families have been broken, and they've been broken to many pieces. And a lot of that is because of society. You know, it's easy to get married. It's easier to get divorced. You know, there's, nobody wants to try to work it out anymore. You have a society that, like I said, I mean, there is, there's really, we don't teach morality. It's not being taught in the homes. It's definitely not being taught in the schools. But what we teach each other to do is to rat on each other for violations of the school code or whatever code. I mean, that is 100% typical communism at its best, and it happens every day in America. I mean, you look at it, and the people that roll their eyes and think that it's nonsense, well, they're ignorant. You know what I mean? They're ignorant to what's really going on, and that's why they're going after your kids. Why do you think that they're really trying to push this transgenderism on the youth? You know, why would you need to have access to teach my kids anything about sexuality, whether it be normal sexual occurrences between man and woman or LGBTQ? You have no business teaching my kids that at a certain age, especially, and then not letting the parents know, what's going on. Now, I'm fortunate. We live in a small West Virginia area, and we don't have that problem like some of the larger cities do. But it's there. It pops its head up every now and then. I mean, we have a small church as well, and I'll tell you, I've had people outside of our church, cussing and screaming and and calling us all sorts of names. This has happened twice in the last, I'm going to say the last 15 years. And it's occurred because I preached a message that they didn't like. Well, if you didn't like it, then don't listen. But each time it was related to, traditional values, and one of them was on the 7 deadly sins, and the other one was on homosexuality. Look, we need to love these people and to teach them the right way. We don't need to hate people because of their choices. We need to pray for them, love them, try to help them through this problem. But they don't want to hear that message. They want to stand outside and shout it down. They'll do anything in their power to keep it, go by, blow the horn, drop stuff, throw stuff all over the place. I mean, that's what they do. That's how they roll. And we have to be smarter than the enemy. We have to continue to move on, continue to deliver the message, and never, ever, ever give up. Remember, that is the key right there. You don't lose until you quit trying. I'm just going to tell you that right now. And a lot of churches, too, have unfortunately quit trying. That's the reason why you can go into pretty much most churches in America, and on most Sunday mornings, especially in smaller areas, you'll be lucky to see 5 cars in the parking lot and maybe 7 or 8 people sitting in the pews. They just don't do it. They just don't do it anymore. And it's a sad situation, and it's destroying our country.
The churches are definitely dying. I think that there's a lot of them, too, that did it to themselves. I really do. Because, look, if you've got Holy Ghost power moving and there is fruit being born and children are being born, and I'm talking about into the kingdom of God, when there's intimacy between the bride and the bridegroom, children are born, and I really see it that way. And there are a lot of churches who have sat back on their laurels and rested on their tax-free status. They have gone a business route as opposed to finding the lost and looking for lost coins and prodigals. And we're seeing the fruits of it. Not only that, but I encourage everybody. I talk about this a lot, Captain McCormick. If you don't think that what's happening right now is not brought on, go read the blessings and the cursings in Deuteronomy 28. It literally describes what's happening. I mean, you've got people coming across the border in waves. God said in Deuteronomy 28, he said, I will bring a foreign nation on you, and you're not going to understand their tongue, and they're not going to regard the young nor the old. That's literally happening in America. There's nothing outside the Word of God. And a lot of these churches need to get their act together and realize that this isn't a game, and we're not playing here, and our enemy is not playing either. Captain McCormick.
Yeah, that is absolutely true, what you're saying. What we really, and look, we can, like what we're doing right now, look at how many people we're reaching, and we're delivering a message. Guarantee you right now, we're delivering a message to some people, and somebody may get saved by this broadcast, and hallelujah and praise Jesus for it. To God goes the glory, not to us, lest any man should boast.
Amen.
And I can tell you this, my brother, if we continue to tell the truth and not back down, we will win this. We will win this. Ultimately, we know how it ends in the end. There's going to be a lot of pain and suffering between now and then. But in the end, we know exactly who's going to come out on top on this. And, we're going to stay with the winning team, and we got to keep doing that.
That's it. I want my name in the book of life, and I want my children to be. And if anybody has a problem with it, I'll see you at the judgment. That's kind of what it comes down to for me. Greg, did you have any questions for the captain? We have about 10 minutes left here. I told you to take the wheel, and then I jumped all over you again. Sorry.
Oh, no.
Go ahead.
Hey, I'm used to it, man. Once you get into your 60s, you don't care. Some guy, what are you, 48 years old or something, Mikey?
Oh, yeah, I'm a young 48-year-old. Yeah.
You gave me an opportunity. You gave me an opportunity to take the wheel, and I choked. So I was like, I'm someone from Toronto, right? From Toronto. But of course, such a pleasure today. What I wanted to really just steer a quick direction. One of the main reasons why I so connected with Captain McCormick, James, was because of our mutual love and respect for the Alberta 51 movement. James he's an active, as you've seen today, an active player, an activist, if you will, for the word and good things in the Constitution and the military on radio every Friday. So I have now done 2 of his shows, and it looks like he's done one of yours, Mike. So here we go. Let's go round robin with just wonderful, stark raving fans each other.
That's fantastic. Hey, what? I got a question, and I'm doing it again, Greg. What is it about the Alberta?
Like that? You're so Generation X male, dude. You just interrupt people like you're the
Squirrel. Captain McCormick, what is it about the Alberta 51 movement that grabs your attention as an American patriot? I would like to hear it.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what grabs my attention. They are seeking freedom from an oppressive and tyrannical government, just like we did when we originally formed this country. Your liberties, your freedoms are being trampled upon in many cases. You have taxation without representation. It's all classic need for a movement. Now, let us pray that it can all be done peacefully and that you don't have to engage in a war to make this thing happen. But I would say that with the number of people that I'm seeing, from this seat, and I'm seeing this digitally, and I'm seeing Greg's numbers, and I'm also seeing, anytime I talk about the Alberta 51 movement, you can tell how many people are viewing and listening to your radio show. My numbers go up, and especially in that Alberta area and over in Montreal as well. I'm just going to tell you, it's Ottawa, Montreal, all those areas, people are listening, and I'm sure that there's people that don't like this message. But the point is that you have a large swath of people that are very displeased, and they are wanting to leave Canada and become the 51st state of the United States of America. We need to be jumping all over that. The United States needs to welcome them in with open arms. That's what we do. That's what we should do. And we need to do it. So I love the patriotism. I do. I just love the fact that people are fighting for their freedom. I mean, how could you not love that?
Yep. Yeah, no, I mean, not only that, but I've likened it before to almost like being a lost tribe of Americans. I mean, look at me. My dad is from Chicago, served in the U.S. military. My mother is from Alberta here. A lot of Albertans, like a large portion of Albertans, can trace their lineage back to the cattle drives where their ancestors came up. from Colorado, Iowa, Idaho, all, you know what I mean, California, Texas. It's literally part of our heritage, and not only that, but I believe it is another reason that the elitist types east of us in Canada have a general disdain for us, is because we have those characteristics that they hate in you.
Right.
And so, yeah.
Yes.
Now, the other thing, too, is that the U.S. might not even look like it does right now in a short period of time. Texas is talking about seceding. I've got friends that made up a fictional country called Diagolon, which is kind of a slash between Alaska and Texas of a great separation of, right and left, red and blue, whatever you want to call it. That's another possibility that there could be a national divorce in the USA. Your thoughts?
Yeah, well, that's happening. So we have several separatist movements going on in America. New York is a prime example. Washington State's another example. You see that in Texas.
Jefferson in California, Illinois wanting to separate from Chicago. It's all over the place.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is where we have what I consider to be a need for allowing them to vote on that, to make that happen. Look, here's the deal. Nobody likes to be, if you travel around Illinois, except for Chicago. Chicago runs everything in Illinois. Yep. That's just the way that it is. That's because they have the massive numbers there, and that's just the way that it happens. Same thing with New York City. But the bulk majority of the citizens in the outlying areas don't feel that way, and they feel that they're not represented or they're underrepresented. So, obviously the answer is to allow them to create a separate state. Probably would avert and divert, bloodshed, or, people get really angry and they're upset when they have their freedoms trampled upon. They feel that they're not properly represented. They're paying taxes and they're living their lives as good, honest citizens. They get upset if they feel like every time I turn around, I know a lot of people in Illinois, California, and New York that absolutely would never vote for some of the horrendous things that you see coming out of their elected politicians.
Me too.
It's disturbing for them, and it's disturbing for the people of Alberta too. They're just tired of it. They're sick of it, and they just want to be represented by people that have their same values. Yep. Very important.
Yeah, 3/4 of Oregon is trying to become Idaho.
Yeah, I don't blame them.
I don't blame them either. Yeah, I mean, it's funny because all of this, they talk about globalization and centralization. Jesus said, "Think not that I'm come to divide, but to unite, but to divide." He literally said that. People assume that he's a uniter, and he is among brethren. But this push for everything to be the same, the wiping out of culture, centralization of government, and we all have to, you will be assimilated, resistance is futile. That's Satan's kingdom. 100%.
Well, 100%. You're right. You're right. Absolutely.
We have just a few minutes left. Sorry, go ahead, Greg.
No, just quick. All of these conversations come back to the same thing to me as AB 51. It's time to exercise kind of a cleansing, your own new state constitution, your own. We've talked about it a million times, Mike, but the ability is there. The logistics are there. But that's the only answer to me, how to fund everything, how to, again, get to Alberta back on the right track, but America back on the right track, too. Yeah. Alberta would be the greatest asset in the world as an example for the rest of the United States. So there you go on that. Just thanks, you guys, today. What a great show. I've been entertained, and do look up all of our work, especially YouTube, Mikey. My YouTube channel's got some really good clips here. We're talking 16,000 views since I started it. So kind of fun. So tune in and all that stuff. And thanks so much. And thanks, Captain. You did such a great job today. and I'm going to listen back and put this back on YouTube because it's just really good listening. Must listen to anyone who cares about the country, anyone who cares about Alberta 51. So there you go.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. And Captain, again, you have been really generous with your time, jumping in and doing a full 2 hours today. And it was very valuable to hear your take on things and your perspective, because you have lived a very different life than I have. And I don't obligatorily say this to everybody, but I will to you. Thank you for your service. We have to go in 1 minute. We're going to shut our connection with Mojo 50. Then we're going to stay on Rumble for 9th hour prayer. And let me tell you something. When this little gang of people, this family that hangs around with Americanuck Radio prays, things happen. We've had people move thousands of miles to come here. We've had healings. We've had food, like the 2 loaves and the five loaves and 2 fishes being distributed. All manner of works of the Spirit of Jesus Christ in this place. Everybody have a blessed weekend. Find a real church. Find a pastor that is anointed with power and truth. And pick up your cross and let's go out and win back our children. In Jesus' name. Back with 9th hour prayer after this.
This is the seditious, rabble-rousing, liberty-loving, home of fun, entertaining, and compelling talk. Mojo 50.